Damon Martin, MMA fighting here with one of the top bantamweight fighters in the world. And after our last conversation, his fight got rescheduled. So we're kind of doing this all over again. He fights TJ Dillashaw coming up on July 24th. Welcome back, Cory Sandhagen. Cory, welcome back. How is everything?
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's good. Just, going through camp a second time.
Absolutely. So, kind of let's talk about that right off the jump. Of course, obviously you're going to fight in May. This gets pushed back to July. How much of a pain in the butt was that for you? How much of a hindrance was that for you to basically kind of start and stop a camp again?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't that bad. I kind of put myself in this place because I feel like it's a good place to be in the UFC where you never really know what's going to happen. And, they might ask you to fight back to back to back to back to back. So I put myself in a place where it's like, okay, that's, what I'm going to do. So whether it was, I guess long story short is I'm ready to wake up every single day to do this in order for me to, accomplish my goals and be the world champ that I want to be.
Yeah. Did you actually did you just continue training straight through? Did you take like a week off or anything? Because I know obviously training camps are generally set up to peak at a certain time. You're cutting weight, things like that, you know what I mean? And obviously this was not like a week difference. This was 2 months difference. So it's a big chunk of time.
Yeah. I think I took 2 down weeks and then I just jumped right back into my 10-week camps that I usually do. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was either 2 or 3 weeks that I had in between before I had to start another 10-week camp. So um, I did take some time down, but it's really hard to completely check out when you also have a fight in the future. So I did as much downtime as I guess I can do, which isn't a ton.
Yeah. Now we talked before, after your last fight, the only things that really made sense for you was TJ Dillashaw the title. Now, unfortunately, because of the whole situation with Aljo and Jan, the title was not there. TJ seemed like the perfect other opponent. Now, I know when TJ fell out, there have been rumors that like maybe you would take another fight, which I thought was insane. Obviously, it didn't happen, but was that the mindset? As soon as you heard TJ was out with the cut, did you always have in your mind you were going to wait for TJ?
I always kind of just wait to see what the UFC is going to say. I knew that if it was just because of a cut, then that's kind of an easy fix, and it's it's something that's not going to put him out for too long. So I maybe would have, but I didn't really feel like I needed to entertain that idea of fighting someone different. But no, there wasn't really a lot of talk about that. It was like, oh, he got caught. It's like, or he got cut. It's like, oh, okay. We'll just wait, and when he's ready to fight again, we'll fight again.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully it wasn't anything like an actual injury because then you deal with some unknowns, right? You got to deal with like how long is he going to be sidelined, how long is it going to take for him to get back. That's where I imagine where you kind of have to deal with like how long do I want to sit and wait versus this being a cut. It's going to heal up. You hope pretty quick, and then obviously the fight ends up being about 2 months later, right?
Yeah, and the only reason that was the case is because that was the first main event that they had available. Because I did want it to be for a main event and I wanted it to be 5 round fight. So I was willing to also wait until they had something like that available. But yeah, and during that time period, I'm pretty sure it got pushed back so much only because we wanted a main event, and that was I think the next one that was available.
Yeah, in a weird way, and again, I'm not playing like the karmic, like karmic justice game here, but in a weird way, knowing that the actual bantamweight title fight won't happen until we assume later this year. I know Aljo has said he'll be ready in October, so let's just say hypothetically October, November, they finally settle their business. If you fight in July, obviously you win, you're going to get the title shot, and that doesn't force you to sit and wait as long. I guess is what I'm getting at. Versus in May again, that could end up being you could potentially be out for like 10 or 11 months at that point for a title shot, and at that point, I mean, again, I wouldn't blame you to wait. I mean, obviously, what point would there be to fight anybody else if you beat TJ Dillashaw and fight for the title?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that made the bad news a little bit easier, I guess. If it's kind of the best case scenario for kind of like a bad situation. So yeah, it made it an easier pill to swallow for sure too, because I knew that I was going to be waiting for a while anyways.
Yeah. Now I know when we spoke before, and I apologize, we're going to be rehashing some of the same ground here because obviously not a ton has changed in terms of like preparation. But one thing I wanted to address with you, I know we talked before about, you had worked with TJ, trained with him a little bit earlier in your career. Obviously, that hasn't been the case during your rise, up to bantamweight ranks because he moved out to California doing his own thing. But I'm sure you saw the story. Maybe it was like a month ago, or maybe it was even before the fight got canceled. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a rumor that maybe TJ had sent spies into your camp. He had sent people in there to like record you training and things like that. Can you kind of give me the lowdown on like what that was about?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know too much just because it would be like a lot of speculating on my part, to be honest. But I think a couple of like guys that came out to train at Dwayne's gym just came out, and then I don't think Dwayne has like a ton of sparring sessions, maybe. So sometimes Dwayne will send some of his guys down to the team to train with us, which is, in any other scenario, a 100% okay thing to do. But just in this scenario, I think we just found out that they were from Dwayne's, and then maybe one of them made like some weird post on social media, is what one of my teammates was telling me, that was like just alluding to the idea that he was there, watching me instead of training, which, like I said, is just all kind of speculation. And I don't spend a lot of energy speculating on things.
Yeah, in a weird way, and follow me when I say this. If it's true, and let's just say again, I know it's speculating, but if it's true, if somebody actually did come in there to get video of you training or try to watch you training, in a weird way, like does it feel like that's a win for you? Because if they're that paranoid about you, what you're doing, you know what I mean? Like, because I know a big part of fight preparation, like you're getting ready for TJ Dillashaw, but ultimately it's about Cory Sandhagen. It's about you. It's about your preparation. You're not, obsessed with what TJ's doing. You're getting yourself ready. If that actually is the case, in a way, that's a win, right? Because like they're so worried about you that they got to send people into your camp to look and see what you're doing.
Yeah, perhaps. To be honest with you, it doesn't. It honestly wouldn't even bother me really. It's more of a thing where it's like hey man, like good on you for doing everything that you can to win, even if it kind of is like a little bit borderline, maybe unethical in some people's terms. But this is the art of war, man, and fighting is real, and you want to do every single thing that you can in order for you not to get beat up, and so that you could beat up the other person. So I don't hate on guys for having that in them, like having a borderline unethical willingness to win is something that I can understand. It's not something that I would condone, but I understand the level of things that we're doing things at and how dangerous the sport is, and it's something that I can understand. So I don't really get too angry about those types of things.
Yeah, it's funny because I know when I've talked to guys talking about, other fighters who they faced who have used performance enhancing drugs. And I know we've talked about the whole PED situation with TJ's coming back from the suspension. And again, is what it is. But one of the things some fighters have told me is like they look at guys who use PEDs as like it's a mental crutch. They feel like they need something extra to get them over a hump, whatever that is, to get them in that place. And when you take that away from them, it can be debilitating. It can be debilitating. It takes something away from them. Now, I know you're absolutely expecting the best TJ Dillashaw, but all these little things can play a factor. Where we're talking about sending guys into your camp to look at what you're doing, coming back from his first fight where, he says he never did it during his whole career. Okay, let's try to believe him, but you never know. I mean, who knows what was going on in every other fight? I mean, these are all things that you can take advantage of, right? In the fight, if you see that little bit of mental weakness, you can absolutely take advantage of that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good. So, I mean, you kind of have to, live in two different worlds when you're fighting. You have to live in the real world, and you also have to live in the very like hyper competitive world that you don't really want to give any excuse for having an advantage in a fight. So, like, I mean, in the real world, yeah, like I have a lot of advantages. Like I have a lot of advantages going into the fight, especially, like him coming off of like a 2.5 year layoff now, I think is what it is. And then like also him, hopefully get tested a little bit more so that he's certainly not on whatever type of enhancement stuff he was on before. I definitely, and I understand that he's a little bit older now. He hasn't fought in a long time now. All of those are like things to kind of consider. But then on the other end, I have to live in the world where I understand that TJ is another opponent that's in front of me. And regardless of whatever advantages I have or don't have, what wins you a fight is going in and beating the guy up and having more of a will to win than the other person. And so I understand, man. Like, yeah, there's a lot of arguments definitely in my favor, but there's also, like nothing wins fights other than going out and performing and having the will to win and beating the guy up, and that's kind of the world that I need to live in more.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we talked before about when you train with TJ, you were at a different point in your career. You were younger. Obviously, he was still at that point. He was TJ Dillashaw, the guy, who was, who became champion right around that time. And obviously, now again, I'm not saying you're predicting you're going to fight that same guy on July 24th, but you've been in there with TJ a little bit, when he was at the peak and you were kind of the young up and comer. Now, obviously, you progressed and evolved a lot since then. But does that little bit of time, the times you did train him, does that help you at all in terms of what to expect? Because just the little things like knowing how tall he is, knowing his reach, knowing that kind of stuff. Like, does that help you going into the fight? Because these are little advantages that you might have over him. He may say, "Well, I trained with Cory Sandhagen," but he didn't train with this Cory Sandhagen. The Cory Sandhagen on this incredible streak and knocking people out with flying knees, and so he didn't fight that guy.
Yeah, sure. I think whenever any fighter goes into a fight, there's a few moments where you kind of realize as you're fighting, things that were unknown become known. So like you don't really know how strong the guy is going to feel. You don't know how his grip is going to be when he grabs you. You don't know how quickly he's going to be able to cover distance. You don't know how fast his hands and kicks are going to be and all of that stuff. So you go in with like a lot of unknowns when you're going in and fighting someone for the first time, which is, 99% of the time the case. This isn't one of those 99% of the time. So I am going in with a lot of more knowns. Like you said, like I kind of know how fast TJ is. I kind of know how strong TJ is. I know how quickly he can cover distance. I know the energy that he brings into the cage and the intensity and the willingness to win. Those are a lot of knowns. So, I mean, I don't know that necessarily will make it easier for me to win, but it definitely adds this. It takes off a little bit of the stress from like those unknowns being known.
Yeah. Now, again, you're expecting the best TJ Dillashaw we've ever seen. Obviously, you prepare for that, but we all know that we don't know what we're getting in some ways. I mean, listen, he was a great champion. He had a lot of big wins at that point, obviously knocking out Cody Garbrandt, doing the things he did, but 2.5 years is a long time. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of athlete you are. And this is a weird one because, part of that, obviously, I know he had a couple shoulder surgeries, but this was not a self-chosen time off. He was suspended. And again, he looks like he's in incredible shape. He looks like he's been doing all the right things. And again, you're expecting that. But can you see in the fight, or maybe even, in those first couple of minutes of the opening round, like what kind of TJ Dillashaw you're facing? Because, if he's a step slower, if his reaction time's different, if again, training is not fighting, if maybe his reaction time to your punches are a little different because he hasn't been in that kind of session, like, will you be able to see those kind of things early, do you believe?
Maybe. I mean, I would love to go out and kind of, in the first minute figure out that, oh, this guy is not as good as he used to be. Like I would love for that moment to be a thing. Do I expect it? Honestly, not really. I think, like I said, man, like if there's kind of anything that separates TJ from the bunch, it's that like he has a really high will to win. Like he has a willingness to win that is definitely something to take serious. But I mean, if his technical skills and all of that stuff are not what they used to be, I'm not expecting that. But if that's the case, then like, good on me. I'll probably get another first round knockout.
to that point, you have set the bar pretty high for yourself recently, Cory. You go out there. We talked before and after your fight with Marlon, where You talked about, training that wheel kick, during quarantine and kind of just learning that on the fly and then then uncorking it in a fight. And we talked about what you did and kind of throwing that flying knee. I just watched that fight again, and I love Frankie. Frankie Edgar's a legend, but man, that's just that. I watched that again right before our interview. Whew, man, that was a knockout. You have set the bar high. Now I know you're not going in saying I'm gonna knock out TJ Dillashaw in the first round, but tell me, be honest. You have another trick up your sleeve? Is there something in there where we could see another, Cory Sandhagen highlight reel knockout?
Yeah, definitely. There's always tricks up the sleeve, man. Like, I'm one of the guys that is at the gym all of the time. Like, I know that there's a lot of fighters out there that do like their camps and then they chill in between fights and stuff. But that's not me. Like, I'm really like, I really love this sport. Like, I really love learning a lot of things about the sport. I love learning new techniques and all of that stuff. So there's definitely, a lot of things that I even didn't get to even show in the Frankie fight because it happened so quickly. So, yeah, I mean, if the fight goes for a while, yeah, you guys will see like a lot of new things from me. And I was excited, honestly, to show that in the Frankie fight. Also very happy that it went the way that it went. But yeah, man, I really take a decent amount of pride in like my work ethic and me being able to get really good in between fights as well.
Yeah. I talk about setting the bar kind of high, but in a way, like, are you proud of yourself for becoming, must see TV? When people see you fight now, they're like, ooh, we know something could happen. We know there's like the potential of that kind of highlight reel knockout, and you create that expectation. There's pressure with that, I guess, but I mean, I think that's a good thing, right? Like, people want to see you fight. Like, they're like, ooh, I want to see what Cory's going to do. Like, there's a certain excitement in that, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's kind of crazy how far a couple knockouts back to back will go for you, especially when I feel like I've had like some pretty good performances in the UFC before that. But I know that the people like knockouts, and I always knew, whenever I would talk to my coaches, I always knew that it was just a matter of time before I started to start knocking people out. It was just kind of a matter of like me kind of honing in a little bit more, and then kind of me getting this little bit more of like a killer attitude going into fights. And but yeah, it's cool to finally feel like not that I've had like a super long run in the UFC or anything. There's definitely guys that deserve a lot of attention too, but it does feel good to have like a really high expectation and to have people like see me in the way that or see me as the fighter that I think that I am, which is a very good one who can really hurt people.
Absolutely. I know this is a question you're going to answer 1,000 times over between now and the fight, Cory. And ultimately, this is a question really should be saved for after the fight. And I'm quite sure we'll do a post-fight interview. Everything goes well on July 24th. We'll be talking a couple days after that. But we all know what this fight is. It's a fight to get to the title. It's the fight to get the winner of Jan and Sterling. I guess the big question, I kind of alluded to it earlier, kind of joking about the time. If there's one positive to delay, you're not as far away. But can I imagine, and again, I know things change and obviously opportunities are out there, but 100%, not only are you earning it, we know that's the case. You win, you're going to get the title shot. There's no doubt about that. I've had a hard time believing that wouldn't happen. But are you willing to wait? I guess is what I'm getting at. Knowing that, Jan and Sterling may not fight till towards the end of the year, which may end up, keeping you out of action for a longer period of time. Are you willing to wait that time to get that title shot?
I guess to answer your question is I don't really know, because I mean, the only other name out there is kind of Rob Font, right? Like Rob Font just had a really good win against Garbrandt. So to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. Like I'm going to kind of see how it goes. And then like kind of, because right now I'm in camp, I'm a little bit like, yeah, I'll fight, like I'll fight tomorrow, like I'll fight every day of my life. So of course that's the way that I am right now. And I'm sure that I'll be like that for, the 48 hours after I fight too. But I don't want to really make an emotional decision or whatever about it. I do feel like I've done, I mean, I beat TJ. I feel like I've done more than enough to like earn that, which I can kind of say confidently, but I also really at this moment don't really mind fighting another person and just going through, like I enjoy that I'm going through murders row. Like I'm grateful that I get to have such a hard trail to the title, so that when it is title fight time, like I know that I've had a hard path and I know that I'm 100% ready. And I think someone like fighting someone like Rob Font would do a lot for me getting better as well. So I guess to answer your question is, I don't know. And I probably won't know until, maybe like a week after my fight when everything settles down. I will say though, I think my girlfriend is in dire need of me wanting to take a break, because I feel like it's just been camp to camp to camp. I fought in October. I fought in February. I was supposed to fight in May. Now I'm fighting in July. So the house hasn't been the most fun place to live in, as you can imagine. So I don't know, man. We'll see.
Yeah, it's funny because last year with the quarantine, you had to be stuck at home, and I know we joked, and your girlfriend ended up having to become, a training partner at home because you were stuck at home a lot at the beginning of the year. You give the girl a vacation, Cory. Come on. I mean, after this one, you got to give her a vacation. Come on, give her something. Come on, now she's earned it.
Something, man. She has earned it. Yeah, she has earned it. But like I said, man, I have like a very warrior mindset right now, where it's like, hey, if they ask me to fight, like I'm going to take a fight, and I'm sorry if we both don't like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is, and the unfortunate side of this, and not to put a negative spin on it, but the reality is your title shot, unfortunately, is going to depend partially on what happens with Jan and Sterling, because obviously if they don't fight or they don't get scheduled till, the end of December, then you're looking at a much longer time period of being off. Now, if they fight in October, that's not as big of a deal. So, and then again, you got to deal with all the, like I said, Aljamain ended up having the neck surgery that's going to keep him out till the end of the year. You got to deal with a lot of unknowns, and those are things that are out of your control. So again, I say, will you wait? But hypothetically, is waiting 6 months or is waiting a year? And that's a big difference.
Yeah, a lot of hypotheticals in the sport, man. It'd be way easier if it was, set up like football or basketball or something, where the season you're fighting, how many games you're having, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of hypotheticals. Actually, I've kind of gotten used to the hypotheticals, where they're just, a lot of them aren't even worth imagining or imagining and like even daydreaming about. So who knows? I'll probably have a better answer for you as it gets closer.
Yeah, and I imagine that's also part of the, like when I talk about Jan Sterling, putting him out of your mind, not only because you got TJ, I know that, but also like you can't control that. Like it's out of your control. You have zero control about when Aljamain's going to be ready to fight again, when the UFC is going to schedule. I mean, Aljamain can be ready tomorrow, and the UFC may still not schedule him until November. We have no idea. So is that also part of it? Like you can't spend much time thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows? You should have seen me when I was watching that title fight. Like it was immediately after, I was just like, what, are we serious? Like so that threw a wrench and stuff too. So who knows, something weird might happen again.
Yeah, like I said, just gotta stay ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Yeah.
Well, Cory, this is I know I said this to you before, but this is such a fantastic fight. I know this has been a long time coming, because even before, you actually got it booked, I know this is like pretty much the only other one you were interested in. I'm glad you got it. Glad you still got the main event. This is a tremendous fight. I expect it to be that way. And I look forward to it, man. Thank you as always for taking the time for me. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your training camp, man. Safe travels out to the fight. The only I say one disappointment. There's only one disappointment here. We're getting crowds back, but you're not going to get a crowd for this one.
Kind of like it that way, because this will be TJ's first one without a crowd too.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah. You've had those silencing knockouts, even though that we haven't had the crowds there to silence them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The crowd thing is kind of weird, who knows? I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone at the UFC, but maybe they'll like keep doing Apex fights. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, especially with all of the ways that we've been doing things in the last year. But I don't know. It will be cool to fight in front of a crowd again, but it's not going to be this go around, and that's okay with me.
Yeah. Hey, first crowd back with a title on the line. That's not a bad way to go, right?
That would be cool.
Well, Cory, as always, thank you for taking the time in. As I said, have a good rest of your training camp. Safe travels out to Vegas, and I'm sure we will catch up afterwards. But thank you as always for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yep, cool. Right on, Damon. Good talking to you, man.